Hello everyone, it's Robin the Delta Crafter, and I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. First, before we get into today's video, I want to thank you all for allowing me to have the time away that I had. I needed the time to take care of me and to honor my feelings. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the kind words and comments you guys left for me in my last video. This community is fabulous, and I wouldn't be the crafter I am without you. So thank you again. While I was having that time to myself, I thought about how and when I would re-enter into making videos and getting back into my crafting. And what spoke to me most was getting back to my roots. And those of you that have been around for a while know that my passion is ink blending. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's go ahead and take a look at the inks that we'll be using. So I'm going to be making two different backgrounds using my old favorite Distress inks. This classic combination of picked raspberry, peacock feathers, and twisted citron never fails. We're also going to be making kind of a green combination with twisted citron, peeled paint, mowed lawn, and lucky clover. Let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to go in with that first classic combination. And if you have never ink blended with these three inks before, you're about to be amazed. These three inks will actually give you anywhere between 5 and 8 different colors as you lay them down. So I'm going to go in first with some twisted citron, and I'm going to saturate my paper pretty nicely. It's going to be damp to the touch, but it's not going to be like completely wet. So I've got about a third of the paper covered with twisted citron. And by the way, this is Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock in the 80-pound weight that I'm using for my background. Then I'm going to lay down a fair amount of peacock feathers as well. So I'm going to cover about a third of the panel with each of the three colors. When I overlap the colors, that's where we're going to get the new colors to show up and to form, and it's just going to be just stunning. So I like to make sure that my colors are well blended. That includes going back over them after I've laid all three down. So now we're going to move into the picked raspberry, which is going to be our pink color, like a bright pink color. So I'm going to put that down on the final third of the cardstock. I think it may be time for me to get a new set of ink blending brushes, because even though my bristles are splaying out a little bit, I think that's what I'm saying. I need to get a new set. Even though it's doing that, it's not going to matter, because the ink blending is going to kind of cover that up and take care of that look. So you see that deep purple we got in there, and then we got like a navy blue. Now we're getting like a Kelly green from overlapping the twisted citron and the peacock feathers. Oh man, this is such a beautiful combination. And I do want to take a moment right now and apologize for the camera angle. I adjusted some of my equipment, and I wasn't aware that the camera was sliding a little bit. So that took care of the three color. Now we're going to move into a 4 color blending combination. And with this one, I'm not kind of being as neat as I was with the 3 color combination. With this one, I'm just laying down these 4 shades of green anywhere that I feel like I want to put them down. I am kind of putting them in 4 distinct areas, but how large the area is, where the area begins and ends, really doesn't matter. It's going to be a little bit more abstract than our first ink blended background. And I don't know if you caught it, but on the first background, but just as I did there, I'm going to go back over some of the areas and make sure that we have a good blend between the 2 colors, so that it really has a fading effect from one color to another. So I'm going to set both of these backgrounds aside and let them dry a little bit before we move on to the next step. So these backgrounds are actually going to be kind of fading into the background behind some bold black stamping. And I'm going to be using the Leafy Bold Print stamp from Hero Arts. And what I love about this stamp is there is a lot of solid colored lines. So you could use any color that you want, but for today's creations, I'm going to be using black ink. So the color, the ink blending that we did is going to peek through those negative spaces, and it's going to be absolutely stunning. So I'm bringing in my Misty. This is a cling stamp, so it's rubber stamp, which means that it's going to stamp very crisply. And I've taken out the foam pad inside my Misty to make room for that rubber stamp. I put some repositionable adhesive on the back of my panel there. And unfortunately, again, sorry for the camera angle, guys. What you can't see is kind of I measured a couple of spaces or squares on that scrap pad at the bottom and the side to make sure that I get my panel in the middle of the stamp. I'm going to use some Hero Arts Intense Black ink. This is a solid, deep black pink ink that works really well for this technique. And because the boldness and crispness of the black ink is important for this creation, I'm actually going to stamp this image 3 times. So that's going to really intensify the intense black ink. And so here I am just inking up my ink pad for the 3rd time, and let's take a look at this ink pad. It's kind of almost kind of psychedelic looking a little bit in the background there. But I absolutely love the colors and the boldness, the contrast of those. Oh, it's so pretty. Now you could take this even further if you wanted to. I didn't, but you could by taking the stamp and the image and embossing, placing some embossing ink on it while you still have your paper in there, because I did the same thing for the green ink blended background, and putting some embossing ink on it with some clear embossing powder. Then you make that black part shiny. Now that's really going to take it to the next level. So off camera, I went ahead and die cut some sentiments using the Thank You 3 sentiment set from scrapbook.com. I assembled those by putting a couple of layers together, and now we have a 3-dimensional sentiment to add to our card panels. Of course, you know I'm going to pop this panel up with some foam tape. I did go ahead and off camera trim it down a little bit, so now it's 4 by 5 1/4. I'm sorry, this is 3 1/4 by 5. I trimmed off quite a bit so I could have a nice white border around the edge. And we're going to go ahead and peel back that tape from the foam tape and the backer and apply our panels to our card bases. The card bases are made from accent opaque 120-pound weight cardstock. And I'm going to glue down the sentiments to the panel, to the cards rather, using some Artiste glue from scrapbook.com. I'm also using some tweezers to hold it while I apply the glue, and we're just going to place those sentiments right onto our ink blended backgrounds. I love placing my sentiments kind of in the corner or off center rather than just always placing them in the center. I think it adds a little bit of uniqueness to the cards. And now that we have those those sentiments in place, I'm just going to place an acrylic block on top of the sentiments, providing a little weight to make sure that they adhere to the panels. And with that, these cards are complete. Here's a closer look at that green ink blended panel. I love the way those greens fade in and out of each other. I can really see that actually being shades of green in like a forest. And here's a brighter rendition of this ink blending with beautiful colors that created about, more colors than we used. While I was playing with this technique, I went ahead and created 2 more cards and decided to use a couple of dies to create some negative space and separation in my creation. So I used some Arches dies on the green panel there. And then I use rectangular dies on the colorful panel. Here's a closer look at that colorful panel. I really love both of the cards. The middle part on these cards that have the cutouts are popped up with some foam tape, and that adds a lot of dimension. I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. If you have enjoyed yourself, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. I'll have all the products I used today listed and linked in the description box below. As always, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Delta Crafter, as well as on my website, thedeltacrafter.com. Until next time, everyone, enjoy!